Take a really tough automatic shotgun. It's so hot the fore end's smoking after 1,500 rounds of continuous rapid fire. But not one malfunction in that whole pile of shells for this Remington model 1100. Now throw it in a brook. We did, just to see what would happen. Cool it off and see if you've still got yourself a shotgun, a working shotgun. You got one. This automatic was designed on a couple of computers, probably the first gun ever worked out that way. We wanted perfection in this gun, and there were a lot of questions about shotguns that no one had the answers to. The computers began coming up with the answers, among them how to cut recoil, and we started building the guns and hammering the daylights out of them to get the toughest automatic ever made. We pounded the bolts with all kinds of simulated loads to find and eliminate any weaknesses in them. With high-speed photography, we analyzed the action at work. Here it reveals the perfect ejection of a fired shell and the smooth feeding of a new one. Over 500,000 test rounds were fired through these guns before they were ever put on the market, to make sure the Model 1100 could take it wherever you took it, like out for hours in a soaking rain. Would it be ready? Sopping wet, but ready. And what about that recoil? On the oscilloscope of our kick meter, we compared the recoil patterns of the Model 1100 and a conventional automatic. That big peak is the wallop of the conventional gun, and the low curve below it is the reduced recoil of the 1100. The computers were right. And what about cold? Right out of the deep freeze, but no trouble there. Finish counts too, and there's a bowling pin finish on these stocks that's awfully hard to beat up and impossible to beat. Take a look at it, completely transparent and tough as nails. At it, take a good look at one of these guns, standard grade. Look at the fine line checkering like expensive custom work, and the neat white spacer at the grip cap. Look at the teardrop shape and diamond inlay. And look at the decorative scroll work and highly polished finish of the receiver, outside and in. Custom throughout in a standard grade gun. And how does it shoot? Oh! Tops at skeet, a perfectly balanced gun that practically points itself. Oh! A great gun for women and girls, tireless with its light recoil. And this is unquestionably the trap gun. And for doubles, too, where light recoil means getting on that second target quickly. Oh! Take an 1100 to the field for
heading out from Stratford with duck boats in tow. The broad bill promptly make room for the invading party and take off in the direction of Montauk Point. No hunter ever charmed the wily broadbill with a thin rig of decoys on a puddle as big as Long Island Sound. After the first 50 are floating, a man stops counting them. On the open water, a broadbill shooter's castle is his duck boat, which is half kayak and half rowboat, equipped with oar locks and running ice water. This boat is rigged the way a dog is leashed to a backyard clothesline, with a few exceptions. An anchor is dropped next to the decoys, and the boat is rowed away some 50 yards, paying out anchor line as it goes. Then a second anchor is dropped. Between the anchors, the boat is hitched to the anchor line by 2 short lines with a cork float on each. The end result is a pulley arrangement that enables the gunner to travel back and forth, up close when the ducks are bold, well back when they're shy. Finally, the real moment comes. 115 decoys are bobbing on the water. All hands reach for the shell boxes. The days of talking about it and the hours of preparing for it narrow down to the few seconds it takes to slide 3 loads of number 4s into the shotguns. Then there's nothing more to do except to melt down into the boat and roll your eyes and wait. Wait for those heavy feathered broadbill that just won't drop unless they're hit hard and clean. Why is it they never fail to come in while you're reloading your gun? Well offshore, 8 broadbill flat on the water, and a half-numb gunner wraps his hands around a cup of coffee and thinks about coming back tomorrow. Meanwhile, thousands of miles northwest on the edge of James Bay, winter is coming on. The wind this morning is gathering force as it pushes across the barren flatland. No golden light here. This is a desolate land of leaden skies. Gray. Wet. It's a lonely way station for the blue goose on his long beeline migration from his Baffin Island breeding ground to winter quarters on Louisiana's shoreline. There's only one practical way to move into this blue goose headquarters, and that's to come in by air, the way the goose gets here. Outfitters meet the hunters at the nearest commercial airline point, then bring them on in light amphibious planes. The reception committee turns up promptly to raise the gunner's blood pressure. A few hundred yards from the airplane, a Cree Indian guide chops dwarf willows for a James Bay blind, while another guide plants a set of goose wings on sticks, a wing and a prayer method of decoying that generations of Crees have used. The blue goose at James Bay is not the super cautious bird he becomes when he heads south later on. Nature gave this country a short haircut. Anything that grows over 6 inches is tall timber, and finding cover can be a problem. Guides build blinds by pushing dwarf willows into the spongy ground. The goose wings are usually set upwind from the shooters, giving each gun a sporting chance at birds passing overhead on a glide toward these strange decoys. For many years, the blue goose had mankind guessing, because in breeding season he vanished without a trace. He remained a mystery bird until 1929, when his nesting ground was discovered on Baffin Island. The swampy Cree Indians couldn't live without him. The white man could live without him, but can't resist the sport of gunning for him halfway to the North Pole. The Indians speak 3 languages, their own, English, and blue goose. The blue goose talk will bring them in from far, far out. Here they come, in broken V's. Here they come, winging for the blind where the gunners wait in the cold mud. The limit kill of these heavy birds is down, and thousands more are left in flight. The gray panorama of James Bay grows darker as the day nears noon. But that doesn't matter to men who have felt the gun butt nudging against their shoulders and seen the blue goose suddenly fold and tumble down. Thousands of windswept miles due west of the willow blind, a flight of ducks whistles down the Pacific flyway through a green valley of British Columbia, and 2 hunters move quietly up a river from the Canadian coast, searching for a spot that suits their idea of a natural blind. This is beautiful country. So downright beautiful that a hunter can forget why he's there if he lets his gaze wander. You don't have to hurry in this valley. Nobody crowds you. Waterfowl gunning in these parts is a combination of decoying and pass shooting. Hunters find a natural location from which they can screen every bird that passes down the valley. Bufflehead, goldeneye, widgeon, mallard, and Canada goose, whatever comes through. The goose decoys in this game are spotted flat side toward the pass. These collapsible imitations will bring geese in close. If they also persuade a high-balling duck to slam on the brakes for an instant, that's all a hunter could ask. Shells for this shooting have to reach way out and still deliver a haymaker, because the birds whistle through high overhead, and you don't have all day to throw your gun up, swing, and squeeze. Now let them come. There's a duck that was winged but not dropped, and the hunter touched off a long shot. This is where a full choke and a lightning-fast load make the difference between a lost bird and one in the bag. The Labrador grabs him, a cripple that won't get away. Meanwhile, back across the Dominion of Canada, on the eastern rim of Hudson Bay, other wings are beating high up against the autumn heavens. The long black necks of Canada geese point southward down the Atlantic flyway, down through Ontario to the eastern shore of Lake Erie, then eastward across Pennsylvania, and southeastward across West Virginia to Chesapeake Bay and the broad mouths of Virginia rivers. In majestic V's and sloping lines, the honkers come on, south into Carolina, south to the vast area of flooded farmland called Lake Mattamuskeet, one of the finest goose gunning areas in the east. It's early afternoon here, and the North Carolina climate is working on a light snow that fell in the morning. Most of the shooting at Mattamuskeet is from permanent blinds. The state of North Carolina runs the show, and the Federal Fish and Wildlife Service owns the sanctuary and shares management with the state. A gunner pays a daily fee for a guide and a blind, and draws lots for his location. Then here too, all the preliminaries dissolve into the simple, hopeful act of loading the gun. This is the moment of maximum optimism every wildfowl shooter knows. He trusts his gun. He trusts his ammunition. He expects to see feathers, and he expects to bring them down. Look there, off to the left. Geese, get down. Here they come. Weed them out. Let them come in. Let them come. This is her show now, and she knows it. Out and after that bird for the honor and glory of the Chesapeake breed. In this kind of country, a dead bird dropping on the water can be picked up in a boat. But with a Chessie along, you don't need a boat, and you get all the cripples. Without a retriever, a cripple is a pretty sure bet to get away in the reeds and marsh grass. Every hunter loses when that happens. Give me that goose. At the same instant, a North Carolina gunner takes a bird in hand. A cloud of pintails beats southward through central California. They're moving in on the rice paddies of the Sacramento Valley. And there waits a gunner in a sunken concrete barrel with his obedient lad beside him. The man looks out across flooded crop fields that were dry and thick with grain a month ago. He likes what he sees, so he sends his greetings to the oncoming pintails.
Dead bird.
Here's a duck hunter who shares his day with his dog and finds his reward in the work of a masterfully trained retriever. The dog goes instantly on signal to a blind retrieve.
Get over!
Finding no bird because the bird is hidden, the dog keeps busy on a general search.
Get back!
He responds to hand signals and shouts from shore.
Get over!
Moving where he's told without hesitation. The treasure hunt ends behind a clump of grass. And a good dog pays another dividend on the many hours invested in his training. Money alone won't buy that kind of service. A mile or so away on the clubhouse stove, a kettle of stew is simmering. The swamp wagon drags to a stop on its noontime pickup route. Horse and buggy transportation is part of the service in this territory. Up they go, the results of a good day's teamwork by a man and a dog. The man is a little tired, but he hasn't discovered it yet. His mind is filled with some phrases that keep drumming away like the words of a familiar song. Clean the bird well and remove all pin feathers. Fill with moistened bread stuffing, well seasoned. Place in a moderately hot oven. Wild rice, currant jelly. Words come back as the buckboard wheels turn slowly through a flooded field in California. A pintail hunter is calling it a day, but mallard hunters in Arkansas are spotting decoys in a flooded stand of pin oak trees, smack in the middle of the Stuttgart rice country. They come in by boat and quietly move through the acorn-studded shallows, hiding their boat wherever they decide to make a stand. Arkansas and Stuttgart are magic words to the mallard gunner's ear. The greenheads funnel into this area from the central flyway. They come by the thousands because this is a popular stopover for rice and acorn feeding. A man stands close to an oak tree and tries to make himself scarce in this timber topping, the sportiest kind of hunting. Quite often, a man has to grab a fast wing shot through the oak branches at birds flying straight away above him. He can't direct the flight of the ducks, and he can't move the trees, and that often results in deflected shot strings. The part of the string that gets through must do a knockdown job. Once a flight is spotted, the man with the truest call is the fellow who will get the shooting. good gunning ends with a bang in Arkansas. And the very next morning at daybreak, the broadbill shooters are back on Long Island Sound, with dirty skies above them, choppy water under them, and the wind sticking needles in their faces. When the limit is down and the shooting is over, these broadbill gunners still have a thrill coming as they lie down in those tossing duck boats and look at the most fascinating air show in the wildfowl world. Here are the birds that taught the airplane how to fly. They circle the field, lower their flaps, start their glide, drop their landing gear, and change their minds. And so the season ends. Another 11 months and the shooters will be back. Same place, same time, same thrill all over again. All right, partner. Let's pick up those 115 decoys.